It's fascinating. My wife had done a lot of the study to track back the history of this place. It was the house and the building that we're sitting in were built in 1881. The first grapes were planted here in 1880. So yeah, lots of rich history, and it's been fun. We've owned it for about 10 years, and the smart money said, well, you know, we've got this old farmhouse here, knock it down, start again. But talk about bad karma. Here you've got something that survived Prohibition and the earthquake and, you know, multiple world wars and like that. You couldn't do it. So instead we've, you know, spent a fortune on trying to do upgrades and really bring things back and respect the history of the property. So the family that originally established this, the Schluters from Germany, they immigrated here, and interestingly, as I mentioned before, the first thing they planted were grapes. We don't know the nature of the grapes, but we know the first thing they planted in 1880 were the grapes. And then they built this structure and the house that we live in. And then this was this winery was at the time was for livestock, and you know, of course, it wasn't a winery. I have no idea, again, where the grapes were going. Maybe one of the local wineries. Maybe Wente was doing it for them. Don't know. And so this space was, at that point, farm animals and just kind of what you'd expect of a big barn for a 180-acre, 200-acre farm. They had it for about 50 years. The family had gone back and forth to Germany. We think they suffered some tough times with some diseases that came through. Just you'd see family members and then they were just gone, going back and doing the records. And so they actually sold it to the Wentes. And the Wentes owned it for about 80 years. And I've met some of the Wentes' oldest employees, and Hispanic people that are just awesome folk to be around, wine growers in this case, and they talk about some of the parties that were held in this barn, and it's one of those, if these walls could talk, oh my God, you know, you could imagine wine growers, grape growers, farmers, people working really hard, and this was their chance to kind of cut loose. And the number of 50th birthday parties that occurred in here for very senior Wente employees. And so I only get bits and pieces of that. Like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of those secrets that they don't want to get out. We bought the property about 10 years ago. At the time, I was, as I said, in tech, so I was gone 80% of the time. You know, if you're in that space, you're in Asia, you're in Europe, you're scattered around the United States, running factories with customers, etc. So I didn't get to be as engaged with the property as I would have liked until 3 years ago when I stepped out of that space. But yeah, we've had it for 10. I wouldn't say it was in a state of disrepair, but it certainly hadn't been given the kind of love that it deserved. So we've put a lot of our hearts into bringing the property up and really being true to its history. This is a big weekend for us. So yesterday was our first normal scheduled tasting room. We've done a few open houses over the last year and a half. But yesterday was really lighting the fuse and doing it for real. So, oh my gosh, we're in deep now. It started out slow, and then we have signs out on the road, which is a pretty good thoroughfare for folks. And of course, there's great friends that own the other wineries in this community. So they started sending us folks in addition to people seeing the signs. And come mid-afternoon, we were slammed. We were really busy. Great people. This room got used a lot, and all the work we've done recently to remodel the space worked out well as well. Yeah, and it's interesting you say it that way, and we've thought about it a lot, particularly as we bought this property. Both my wife and I grew up in farm kind of areas or ranch areas, and so plenty comfortable with having space around us and the work that goes with it and like that. But again, some of the history of the properties and the history of what goes on here in this region, you feel just particularly connected to. The emotional investment you get is just kind of second to none. Both of us have had, big fancy houses and all the rest that comes with that, but this just really ties you to the history and the space better. And your point about what you're creating going forward is right on. Part of what's been fun that ties with that for me, Ray, is the awesome people that are in the community and the history that goes with it, whether they're like me that are fairly new to it or others that are generational. So you and I talked before, I came out of tech. What I really find different and enjoyable about this is how giving the people are with their wisdom and their time. And whether it's in aspects of winemaking or the business, and here I am, biting my nails about getting this started and launching the tasting room, or just the subtleties of my pump broke and I'm racking and it's a critical time, and the number of people in the community that in a second will just be right here to help. It's a nice change from other parts of my life that I've experienced, and is really part of the joy of doing this. Fascinating folks, like you said, passionate, engaging, supportive. It's been a lot of fun. So for us, we bought this property. At the time, there were 5 acres of Chardonnay, and we had the wine, the vineyard management was done by Winty, and they bought all the grapes. And as I said, I was traveling all over the world, and then said, well, what the heck? It's not very often in life that you have a Chardonnay vineyard in your backyard. I should give this a go. You're a tech guy. You think you're really smart, as a lot of tech guys do. And so I started getting into it and got incredibly humbled about just what all it takes. Like I said, the tech Silicon Valley mindset is, we're changing the world. We can take on anything. We deal with the world's toughest problems, blah, blah, blah. That kind of self-absorbed mentality you get to. And then stepping over into this and trying to really understand the worlds of enough of, botany and biology and chemistry and artistry, and put all that together. Anyway, so the property had the grapes, and I just really had a great time with it. I mean, ultimately, we started doing more and more with the Chardonnay, and what I liked about the grape is I could do so many different things with it. Whether I did it in a Chablis style, AKA just plain stainless, or big and rich California or Burgundian, I could just have a really interesting time using that grape for a lot of different things. So we make that as well as several reds, but the estate fruit is Chardonnay. Yeah, several different places. We've bought grapes from Napa. We buy grapes from various places in the foothills. We buy, starting this year, we'll be buying some other grapes in the Livermore area. One of the areas up in the foothills is a Cabernet, nice old vines, 50-year-old vines, beautiful, rich, big fruit, extremely low yield, kind of what you'd expect with that sort of thing. The owner of it, great guy. I'm doing a tangent on you here a little bit. He was going to pull a lot of it out, and because the yields were so low. And a fellow I do this with, we said, no, let us adopt a couple acres. Let's just adopt a couple acres. Your fruit's so nice. So we buy that. We buy Grenache. We buy Syrah. We buy Mourvedre, Barbera, and a little bit of Malbec. The conservancy's working hard to help protect the space around here. And there's a lot of open space, and their concern is open space could very quickly get run over by development. Yep. So one of their charters to protect that space, protect the heritage of this area, is if you get wineries in place, you get vineyards in place, then you've got something that'll keep it from being developed and lose that beauty. So they are doing a lot to help the wineries, all of us, bring up our game, whether it's in hospitality, whether it's in winemaking, variety of other measures, whether it's even in business. So they're doing a lot to help in that, and for a good cause. It's not just a commercial cause; it's doing the right thing for the community. www.pruettwine.com. And being a gray hair type, I've got some work to do to catch up on all the social front. So I do have Instagram, but it's not specific to the winery yet. And I don't have a Facebook page specific to the winery. Can you believe that?
Oh my gosh!
I know. What a dinosaur. So those are my next things to get in place. But www.pruettwine.com. 925-525-3589.